hidden, forgotten. This is Harbor Town. Harbor Town is an all-new series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to a new destination.
looks like Rox is on. Hey, Grindelwolf's on. Frank's on. Will's on. Awesome. Carlos and I are on, so that's a good thing.
You're echoing pretty heavily, Jay.
I am? Okay. Let me see if it's something going on. How about now?
Yeah, it is.
Am I echoing on? All right, let me, all right. It could be on your end. One sec here. Hey, Celestian, what's up? Let's try and get that figured out. I got my Rox, Frank. Okay, all right. No, all right, it's probably just on Carlos's end. All right, good. It could be that some kind of weird reverb, but what Carlos is getting, hopefully we get that cleared up.
Actually, I know exactly what to do about it.
All right, cool.
There it is.
Yeah, just so guys, let's see. We got a minute here. We'll come on early. Why not? Fighter time, guys. Hello. Carlos is on. The great Carlos Slicing is on with me tonight as we start a half hour late. Thank you, everyone, for coming on to tonight's Gabbin at Lord Peaks Haven. We're actually at number 42. And Carlos was kind enough to come on with us tonight. Unfortunately, he cannot make the roundtable next week. So, Carlos,
what a bummer, too. I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll have another one, though. I'm going to do one every 3 to 4 months now because they're so popular. And I think that we'll keep this going. I mean, the momentum is great now. I mean, look at how successful your 3 broadcasts in a row were for charity. They were fantastic.
I know, it was awesome. We managed to raise over $500 for Red Rover. I can't thank enough the people that donated. A lot of the people that are in this room right now were some of my staunchest backers on that, and it's really going to help the charity. And it was great. And I owe most of it to you, actually, Jay. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing the whole Twitch thing. So,
well,
so thank you.
You're welcome, and it feels great to have another old school guy doing some twitching. So
yeah, we're a dying breed, aren't we?
I think we're going to be a growing breed, though. I think that you and I have a lot of fantastic things to do with a lot of our other partners. Yes, amen to that. Will said, amen to that. We're gonna. I think we'll do some announcements at the end of the night, and we got some super exciting things.
Right, absolutely.
What's up, Naz? How is it? So I got this. I got this quick. I got this ton of times. I got my cheating dice thrown on me. How many times Thursday night, guys? You threw that cheating dice out on me. But that was a huge mega fight at the end, and we got some cool stuff coming up at the end of this. This Thursday, and tonight starts 5 broadcasts in the next 7 days. So tonight, us, the Gabbin. Monday night, Mark's group. Thursday night, Michael Baton's Revenge for Rox and Naz. Saturday night, Brian's going to DM a 5e using Fantasy Ground Celestian, right? And then our DM's Roundtable Sunday. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. But we're here for something that I was thinking of. What am I going to do between last week's and the Roundtable? And it just came to me, man, we haven't really talked about the fighter class and how it evolved from where it did in first edition. And then that's when I was like, oh, Carlos would be perfect for this. And then you said something to me that was not shocking, but it shows that my guys are prima donnas, I think. And go ahead, tell me what you said.
Okay, well, obviously I've been running games for about 40 years in my through my D&D experience, and mostly right now I'm doing a lot of convention gaming, going to different shows around America, getting to meet new players and running things in the context of those games. One thing I noticed is I provide pre-generated characters for everyone at the beginning of a game. Uniformly, the fighter classes are taken, in particular the pure fighter is taken before any other class. That is the first character to go almost every time. Is the pure fighter.
in 1E.
Yes, and specifically if they are a demi-human class like a dwarf, he's gone right away.
Wow. That's just like I said. I think my guys were prima. Well, let me not say that. You brought it up. My guys are such veteran players. I mean,
Right.
you know that they like variety and like to try different things,
Exactly.
and that's probably what the case
I,
is
I
on
think the
that.
more experience that you have in the game, the more spice you may need to put into there because you've seen a lot of things before, and you're eager to try new things. You're eager to you've done a lot of the quote unquote vanilla classes before, so you feel like you want to branch out and do different things. However, I'm here prepared to argue with you why I think that the fighter class is probably the best class in D&D. However, even though I will go on record as I play almost strictly magic users.
Awesome.
However, I am going to argue that the fighter is probably the best class in D&D.
Well, and I'm not saying it's not now.
I
So
know.
that's I'm going to say I'm going to go over the evolution of 40 years. So
Right.
this is what I want to do. I don't. For those of you that missed the episode with Carlos in his car with his wife driving him around, just tell everyone, give them a quick little background of
Okay.
who you are and what you
Yeah,
do.
I'm Carlos Lysing. I am the lead designer and the owner of Castle Entertainment. We do 1E modules. I've been gaming for about 40 years. I started with your basic set. I saw it on my best friend's coffee table when I was a kid. We played it one time, and I was hooked ever since. So ever since then, it's been like about 40 years of gaming in first edition. Um, I've gone through and played different editions at different times. I've even taken a break from the game and played other systems like Marvel Superheroes or Star Frontiers or Top Secret. I always come back to D&D. And yeah, it's I do a lot of convention gaming. I do a lot of that's pretty. We publish a whole range of modules. We've got about 14 modules that we've done so far, and the brand keeps growing. And we've got a successful Patreon. I'm very gratified that people seem to like the stuff that we're doing. And there we go, right over there. Those are two of the modules that we run over there. In Jay's right hand, he's got Die Marquesa Die in his left hand as he switches them up on me.
Sorry.
He's got Kill Marquesa, and those were the successors to the Slave Lords games from TSR.
Yes, and I love them. And
So
I got a wonderful surprise for everyone coming in May with that prelude we had with the Defense of the Watchers Towers. So you can just imagine, Carlos, how fun that's going to be.
Oh, I can already imagine.
So I put up some pictures and some things that we're doing with the fighter now as the evolution. I want to go all the way back to the beginning, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
And that is a pre-Unearthed Arcana player's handbook. That's it. There's no Unearthed Arcana out. It's pre-1983. You have a fighter. And that's it's one of the base classes, right? I mean, it's the class that probably, even Paladins, Rangers, everything's built on. It's a melee class. So let me show you where is it? Did I go by it? I must have gone right by it. We have something up, just the table in the player's handbook. There it is. That's it. That blurb is all you have about a fighter in AD&D First Edition. That's it. Nothing else really. There's some multi-class options in there and about rules about dual classing. And so if you look at my key characters, Lord Gazumba, Fire Clerk Mage, Funkenheidi Peak, Fighter Mage, Swain, Mark's character, Fighter Clerk Mage. They're all multi-class back then. That was the trend that we had. Was there's no specialization. There's really, you choose a weapon and that's your proficiencies or your weapons, whatever you want to take. Now you can shoot a bow twice. You can shoot a crossbow once, right? You could throw a hand axe, but that's it. I mean, this is pre-Unearthed Arcana, and we were just talking before we came on. That is the first article that came up. The two-fisted fighting rules were pre-Unearthed Arcana by Roger Moore. So that's from issue 68 in December of 82. And why don't you explain, Carlos, what that does? And there's a table. So
okay,
for those.
I should also mention that you'll notice in the article that Jay has up right now, it mentions that the following table adapted from the DMG.
Yep, absolutely.
So in the
Absolutely.
in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there were actually rules for 2-weapon fighting. Those rules went as follows: your primary weapon in your main hand was at -2 to hit, where your secondary weapon was at -4 to hit. Now those penalties were mitigated by high dexterity. If you'll go ahead to read on. Now, going backwards from there, Roger Moore in Dragon Magazine went ahead and he released an addenda to that, which is what Jay had up just now. Whereas those penalties were a little bit more staunch, and the reason why he did that was because, quite frankly, 2-weapon fighting is extremely effective in the hands of a fighter in D&D. Actually, it's extremely effective in the hands of most melee classes, and I would actually argue in the hands of a thief it's the most effective because of the high dexterity mitigating the penalty. However, that's what Jay had up right now.
Yeah, and this is where we first see some changes to styles.
Right.
And I can remember and there's no specialization, so there's no like multiple attacks yet, but there's multiple attacks with two-fisted fighting. And I can remember a lot of the high dex thieves and some of the fighters started doing it, particularly Gazumba's best friend Hawk. He is a half elf, and he would actually fight bastard sword, one-handed short sword, back in the day. And he didn't have a strength bonus or anything, but he got that extra attack in. He didn't have any pluses to hit. He wasn't an elf with +1 hit with his sword. He just had the pluses of the magic weapons and, the penalties that went along with it. And that's when we first started seeing this, coming around 82, when that article came out and kind of clarified, because, that's fine print in a Dungeon Master's Guide, and so,
exact.
Excuse me?
Page 70 to be exact.
Page 7. Cool. 10 minutes. Page 70 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. We do see, Nick. So we're going to get there on what's coming up here. By the way, we got a new. Along with, I want to put this out there to Nightheart Gaming, to Wicked Studios, and to any other of the partners we have on. Please check out the D&D Breakfast Club. They are another new partner that I've joined up with. They only broadcast Sunday mornings, and there's always a gap there, guys. So check them out. They were on this morning. They play 5e, but they use some miniatures, and they'd be a good one to contact. Just say you talk to me. We have a whole group. Oh, there he is. There he is. Hey, good
big shout out, by the way, to your backer there who's doing Harbor Town. That set of miniatures looks absolutely amazing.
Thank you. And that's Miniature Building Authority. And I announced it once. I'm going to do another announcement on that. Yes. So please, Will, Frank, any of you guys, start doing some joint hosting with them. Like I said, we got a whole group of different Carlos, we got a whole group of different broadcasters. Start doing auto hosting with each other. We're trying to create a whole coalition here. So they're our latest joiners up. Please give them. You guys had Ryan. You had a big group this morning. It was nice. I watched the whole thing, but I watched about 2.5 hours of it. So it was very, very nicely done. They're from Minnesota. So yes, cool, man. Well, thanks a lot. And so back to what we're talking about here with the fighter. Arthur Kane came out and threw a wrench into everything, right?
Absolutely. When you talk about the Unearthed Arcana additions to the fighter, it should first be remembered that when you talk about a +1 in a raw context of math, you're talking about 5%. Okay,
it's a lot.
I want to put that forth when I as a preface before I talk about Unearthed Arcana. At first level, what you could do in Unearthed Arcana is you could take what's called weapons proficiency or weapon specialization, which provided your character in a melee character a +1 to hit and a +2 to damage for their and it would speed along their extra attacks. It would give them the step above where they belong. For example, if you had 1 attack you were supposed to have, you went to 3 every 2 rounds. If you had 3 every 2 rounds, you went to 2 attacks a round. Now consider this for a moment. At first level, as a if you look at the weapons specialization rules, it explicitly says though you can also double specialize at first level.
Great.
I want you to imagine this for a moment, okay? You take a
Yeah.
first level fighter. You say that you're going to double specialize him at first level, which is legitimate. That's +3 to hit, +3 to damage. So that's a 15% additional to hit that you before. Now let's say you give him 2 short swords and have him dual wield at the same time, specializing in short swords. Now all of a sudden you're doing +3 with one hand to hit and damage, +2 to hit, and +3 to damage with the offhand.
Not counting strength.
Not counting strength. That is instantly at first level.
Right.
You've created yourself just an absolute killing machine.
Absolutely, and that and you I didn't even send you these notes, Carlos, and it's like I sent them to you telepathically. So that is awesome. So here's what happened. Specialization.
Before you go, there was one last thing, Jay.
Go for it. No, absolutely.
Because Jay also incorporates a lot of second edition rules, and there was an entire build that was done back in the 2E days where you would have the dart specialist, and what he would do is because darts had such a high rapid fire rate of fire, they would double specialize in darts, and you could possibly do, for example, you would be doing 6 or 7 hits a round. Yes, they're 1d4, but they're +3 every time. And if your DM uses strength bonuses for thrown items, all of a sudden you're killing Demogorgon in a round, as with a dart specialist.
Oh, and we have recently nixed that back a little bit too, because that got crazy and out of hand.
Yeah.
Dart and dagger specialists, especially,
right,
were insane, and I agree 100% that we had to watch what was going on.
Oh, and imagine this, Jay. Imagine if they're throwing darts of the hornet's nest. And they throw it. It's breaking into 5 extra darts, like a Merv ICBM.
It could break into 20 different darts on each one.
instantly, you're doing you're probably doing about 30 hits a round. Every single one of them is at least 4 points of damage.
The world got. Under Arcana had some great ideas if you balanced it out, and this is what we ran across. This is the main problem, and Alan says it's not his. He didn't cause it, but he had a Sylvan elf named Torque Storm, and he had like 1898 or strength. He had up to his racial maximum 1875. Then he got I think he got a point of strength from a deck of many things. 19 strength, +3, +7. +3, +7. He fought longsword, short sword. Just the damage was specialized in the primary hand. Now, it doesn't say in Art Arcana you can't specialize in your secondary hand.
No, it does not.
It does not. So we had all sorts of cool, man. Well, we're going to try and teach you some stuff here. We're going to learn you on all the things we do, and I got some 3rd edition stuff I'm going to show you that we've moved into 1st and 2nd. So hopefully this will help you out, man. I'm excited that you're here. Thank you so very much. There's a lot of stuff that they didn't think about, and one of the other things was, and we won't go into this, but Rangers got multiple attacks, but Paladins didn't with specialization. That made no sense to me why they did that, but neither here nor there. I mean, that was just crazy too. There was all sorts of crazy stuff. So we had some issues with guys dealing out with multiple attacks now at first level. We right off the bat said no double specialization until you get a new proficiency. That we nixed, and this is 1983, 84 era. That we nixed completely. It was like, no, you got to start single. High strength and two-fisted fighting combined made a crazy. Elf fighters became crazy. Even a good half-orc fighter with a half-decent dex would be, because the strength bonus in secondary hand was full. And if you had 18/98 strength +5 damage, that's crazy, right? I mean, it imbalanced the game right off the bat. And I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to give life to fighters, right? That's what I think they were trying to do.
I would agree.
Yeah. Now, something good that they did, but they just went too far, was missile specialists. See, and okay, Carlos, Mike. Hey, there's Greyhawk Mike. Mike,
Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
thanks for that, man. Let's go Blues. That's funny. They won the first round.
About time you guys showed up.
That's
This
awesome. Mike, I'll see you Wednesday, June 5th. I'll be the first. I've been told I'm the first guest on the new season on the Wednesday nights of Legends and Lore. So
awesome, man.
yeah.
It's about time they had you.
Well, it's been the conflict on Thursdays now. Yeah. So, so I love that they extended ranges 30 feet. I love that. Who started the specialization? So I don't have to say it this week. Go.
Oh man, you're really gonna make me do it, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Weapon specialization was actually an idea that was first floated by Len Lakofka.
Yes.
He created his Archer subclass in Dragon Magazine. That it evolved into. Ended up evolving into specialization.
I did not have to say it this week.
No, you did not. You forced it.
That was awesome. So the Archer came out, and this kind of made fighters with bows better.
But wait a second.
Does
that mean that you're blaming also in a roundabout way Len for the imbalanced missile fire?
There we go. Hey, Will, thanks. And you know what? That'll go to a character chosen by Michael Baton himself on Thursday night for a special hero point. No, I don't blame Leonard at all. Leonard was way ahead of his time. But I blame whoever wrote down Arthur Cana. Thank you so very much.
I tend to agree, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but so what we did was to have double damage at point blank. We got rid of that. So we like the +2/+2/+1/+1. Range is increased by 30. We fixed the missile, like light crossbow, heavy crossbow. We changed the damage on light crossbows 1 to 8, and we did heavies 1 to 10. And they did that in 3rd edition. So we were a little ahead of the time on that. But we got rid of the double damage dice to point blank, but we allowed the extension of the ranges to get a missile specialist into the game. And it also does it really say in Archer Cana how many specializations a fighter gets?
No, what it does say, however, there's an implication if you read the wording in it that it suggests that you may only be able to take one of them, but does not explicitly say how many you're allowed to take.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't say explicitly.
It does not explicitly say that.
Bill, you want to hop on? You want to hop on, Bill? You're more than welcome to. Bill the Master Crafter was the other possible. You're more than welcome to hopping on. Yeah,
now, there's a way to mitigate all of that, however, that I brought up to you the other day that is usually my way of handling the specialization problem. And
thanks,
that is, you want to give characters a reason why they shouldn't specialize. And the reason why they shouldn't specialize is pretty simple. It's weapon versus AC type.
And I know I don't. We talked about homebrew rules last week, and on that list it was like obvious ones for us was weapons versus AC type and speed factor of weapons was just like, my gosh, if anyone saw the fight Thursday night, I don't know how much I would slow it down even more because of our play style, you know. So
well, they're the rules are super complex. I'm not going to argue that they're cumbersome, because they're very cumbersome, and just like things like overbearing, pummeling, and grappling.
Right.
I mean, there's reasons why you don't want to use them, but at the same point in time, those rules, with a detailed analysis of the game, you realize why Gary had them, why he put them in the system, because they do reflect very important parts of the rule. For example, if you're a fighter in the game, why would you choose anything other than a longsword, bastard sword because of their ability to do damage? Why would you pick a broadsword? Why would you pick a military pick? The reasons aren't really obvious until you start looking at weapon versus AC type, in which you realize that all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that military pick does a lot of damage against chainmail type armor, or it has the potential to hit against chainmail armor. And if you're fighting in a situation where you're doing a military engagement in a frontline situation, let's say you're the orcs fighting against Furiandian frontline soldiers, you're going to be dealing with a lot of plate. You're going to be dealing with a lot of chain. So right away, slashing weapons, all of a sudden they don't look so good compared to those other weapons.
Right.
And if you've decided that you're going to double specialize in Bastard Sword because it does so much damage, and then you realize that it's not as effective against those other AC types, it's a good reason why to use that system.
It is a great reason. I agree. And what I like about my guys is they may be prima donnas. Sorry, Bill. But they love to flavor out their characters with different weapon types and different styles. And I think we kind of solved that over the last 5 to 7 years with what we did with merging feats into proficiencies. That kind of helped that. But you're absolutely correct. If we played the old one character, DM doesn't even have any characters in the party, and I had 4 characters, I think it would work better. But I let my guys play 2, so it kind of it's like a free, our fights are free for alls on that table.
I've seen enough of the games to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's where I think you and I will differ a little bit, and that's cool because that's a great thing about the game is it doesn't affect the game at all. It doesn't affect the story. It doesn't affect Greyhawk, and that's the cool thing. About what you and I do is that you can definitely utilize that to an advantage in your game, and I'm going to look past it because I got so much going on as it is. I would lose track. I find the more I have to worry about on rolling and calculating, the less nasty my high level NPCs are because I forget something. I always, oh my God, I forgot to cast that prep spell, or I forgot my fire shield, or I forgot, and then you're like, oh, and that just maybe it's just I'm getting old too, Carlos. I'm not sure.
Fire shield is so nasty.
Yes, it is. But once again, the archer negates a fire shield, definitely. So
that's true.
And look at that. We got Walt Colby's on. Hey, Walt, and Brian. Brian, Sublime BW guys, Saturday night. He's DMing for me, for Bill, for the Naz, and for Anna Meyer. Okay? So in a 5e game.
All-star cast.
All-star cast on Fantasy Ground game in 5e. So it's going to be roughly in the same spot that we're doing something. So not too far away. So Art Arcana came out, lots of cool things. We expanded it. We allow barbarians to take 1 specialization, no multiple attacks. Rangers, no multiple attacks. Paladins and all their subclasses, 2 specializations, no multiple attacks. All right, so they get +1/+2. Add a little flavor to it.
Did that include weapons like longbow or bows that allowed you naturally to attack twice?
It does.
Because of rate of fire?
It does, but all they get is the +2/+2 at point blank and +1/+1 at short, and that's it.
Okay.
It never scales up, and they don't get multiple attacks, so they only get the 2 arrows. We made a rule. The archer class is the only class with 3 arrows ever, and that's at 7th level. No one else ever gets more than 2 arrows. So that solved that problem right away. To make the archer, the archer is the longbow class. That's how we do it in our game. Yes, I said that. I said the Naz, man. I said you, Timmy. Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question,
please.
Jay, about that situation.
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
say that your archer class had boots of speed, which should double your attack rate. Was that 6 or is that 4 that they would get at 7th?
Boots of speed in our game double 24 movement, -2 to armor class, no attack changes.
Okay.
Same with boots of striding and springing, so we don't have to worry about that. Because if that was the case, they would never be a pair of boots of speed in my game ever.
Oh, okay. Well, what about the haste spell then?
Haste spell is haste spell is something that we got away from. That's a great question. Back in the day, we allowed double hasting. Potion and someone casting a spell, it got crazy. So I have pulled haste and slow back. Any of you who watched our first Saturday ever show and the fight with a Miracle the Chaotic, there was one house rule of that fight. No area effect hastes, no area effect slows. I wanted to keep it so that it wasn't a Dispel Magic fest going on. Personal haste, if you cast the haste spell, it was personal. If you took a potion, that's it. If you cast slow on one target, that's fine, not area effect. And that resolved the issue. I'm thinking about going that direction with the spells because it drives things crazy, and then all of a sudden everyone's throwing dispel magics all over the place, and that's no fun for anyone.
By the way, for everyone out in Twitch land, your favorite colorless mage of Perrinland wants to remind you that slow is far superior to haste because there's no save.
Correct, but there are items that negate it, like a monk.
There are. It's still
action.
a far superior spell to haste. Also, the aging is killer when you're playing a human.
Correct. See, Celestian, that was a close call on whether Boots of Speed gave attack rate increase or not. Some said it did, the wording of the item. Some said it didn't because of the wording of the item. You were of the course that it didn't. Carlos was of the course that it did.
Yeah.
I was of the course that if it did, it wasn't going to do it in my game, and that we had to bring out the Bill Eilenfeld "No Just No" emote. So that's where we are, and so we all have 3 different views on it, but we all can live with. Carlos probably gives it out a lot less in his campaign. I'd say how many?
I don't think there is a pair of Boots of Speed in my campaign at all.
Bill, how many Boots of Speed? Walt, how many Boots of Speed are in our campaign? 3. Hey, Anna's on. Anna, we just were talking about next Saturday. Yeah, and Anna will be on Sunday. Anna will be on Saturday and Sunday night next week. So for both. So what do you think, Bill? Walt? 3 sets of Boots of Speed in the campaign, over 400 characters, something like that. Boots of Striding and Springing tend to come out a little bit more, and that's a good question. But armor class and 24-inch movement is not many, a couple at best. He's absolutely correct. So, but you're absolutely correct. That could get crazy.
Yeah.
So with secondary hand damage getting too high, we realized we had a serious problem on our hands. Now, hey Hydrox, so it's good to see you. Good to see everyone, guys. Thanks a lot for Carlos and I appreciate the support here. This is great, especially on a holiday night. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, Galena, but she's a thief. She's the dual class thief illusionist, so it's not a big deal, Bill. It's not like a crazy fighter. We knew we had issues with certain classes. Cavaliers were a problem too, and we're not going to discuss Cavaliers, but if you allow Cavaliers specialize in their secondary hand, you're asking for a world of hurt. Because they shouldn't even be using a shield. I mean, they shouldn't even be fighting two-fisted, but people are, like Dark Elves and stuff, they're going to abuse it. And we had a player who's had a character named Lecter, Hannibal Lecter. He was a Dark Elf, and he was getting 9 attacks every 2 rounds. Because it was insane.
Goodness.
Yeah, so right then and there, we knew we had a problem. So what did we do? 3rd edition came out. We're still playing 2nd edition, and we went with. They had all these great ideas in 3rd edition. Now we didn't take all of them, but we took a couple of things, and they had these things called feats, and we said, well, a feat. What are we gonna add a feat in now? I said to Bill, and I said to Walt, and I said to Alan and my other players, I think we can incorporate this into proficiencies. People take weapon proficiencies, but they take 3 or 4 of them that they don't ever use. So why don't we take a look? I got your stuff up right there now. Had to give you a little kudos on the scroller there.
I love it.
There's the thank you card, was beautiful, and I'm keeping that forever. So thank you so very much. Yeah, absolutely. So we decided let's work this in somehow, and plus I got a fighter update card. You're gonna like this, Carlos. I think you like one of the couple of the things we do. All right, here we go. All right, so we created now. There's already 2 proficiencies in the game. There's 3: specialization, two-fisted fighting, double specialization. Right? So there's 3 already in the game. So also at this time, Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 are out. Right? Some of the best games ever. I don't know if you ever played them, Carl, but they had some fantastic ideas in them. Yep. And they had stuff called overpowering. They had stuff called weapon finesse. They had things called, and we're like, man, I think I can work this into the system a bit here. So
the Forgotten Realms nature of them makes me recoil a little bit, but they are great games.
Baldur's Gate 2 is the best RPG.
Probably the best. It's probably the most faithful recreation of a D&D experience in video game history.
With the NPCs in there, that almost were intuitive, and it was,
Yeah.
we're talking about 15, 20 years ago, how great that was. Yeah, I know. We needed more Greyhawk games, besides Temple of Elemental Evil.
Which was bugged
Oh, it
to
was,
6 Ways to Sunday.
absolutely. But I think they couldn't even find the code to re-release it, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So what we did was I put it out there. What ones do you guys think will make sense? And we started, and the list was probably to about here. That's about that high. And we came up with some things like toughness. All right, so you can take a feat proficiency toughness, 1 hit point per level. That's it. We used to allow double taking of feats and proficiencies. We stopped that. Defensive training, which -1 to your natural armor class, and we started adding these things in, and it started having a flavor to a lot of classes.
Jay, I've asked you this before,
Mhm.
but I think for people that don't tune in all the time, maybe this is a good question to ask again at this
Absolutely.
point.
Go for it.
When you have a character in your game, let's say that I was playing in your campaign and I took toughness twice. When you decide that you're going to eliminate that, do you tend to grandfather that in for that character, or do you say that that character has to change what he does based on the new ruling?
We I looked at all the characters that had it, and a lot of them were dual class fighter / illusionist fighter mages, a couple elementalists, which are specialty mages, and we were able to work it out with each character individually. I think there's one left. Yeah, he says lost it. I think there's one that has not been comatized yet, that had the double toughness that didn't get changed yet. We undid it, but made it fair. Here's another thing I did. You know how you have you lose your con when you get raised from the dead, and you lose a whole level of hit points. Well, I got generous in my old age. So say you had 80 hit points as a fighter, and you had 16 con, and you were 10th level at that point, and you got killed, and you raised to 15. I would take half the hit points out.
Okay.
Up to your max. So you'd have 75 hit points now instead of 70. You know what I'm saying? I would not pulverize the characters, because I didn't want people to worry about dying either.
No.
Yeah, that was another thing I did. So we kind of, yeah, Brian's like softy. Yeah, so I've done a lot of things to let things phase in, and we kind of changed up some things on here. Bill added a couple. Bill added the precise strikes, which I really like, because these can specialization can only be taken by the classes that can take it, and that's still the way it is. Precise strikes anyone can take. It's a +1 to hit or +1 to damage with 1 weapon, and that's all it does. So if you want to be a mage, you want to take a +1 to hit with your staff, okay, fine. Well, it really doesn't help you much, but we allowed that, and we added improved two-fisted fighting, so that you didn't have to have a high dex to be good at two-fisted fighting. We've done some things. We added blind fighting. I've tweaked that multiple times. Monkey grip is one of my favorites. So monkey grip is the following: longsword primary. Why can't you use the longsword in your secondary hand? Rules say you can't.
Right.
Now you can with monkey grip. Monkey grip, if it's too big of a weapon, -2 to hit.
Right.
But you can use it now a longsword in your secondary hand. You do not, if you're specialized in your primary, or you're finessed in your primary, you can't finesse a longsword, actually. Too big. If you're not specialized with that in your secondary hand. It's primary hand only now for weapon specialization. Primary hands, no secondaries. Even for dark elves, none. That stopped it. I think, right, Bill? That stopped it, right, Walt? That stopped the abuse right there. So, Carlos, please let me know what you think about this. I know this is like a lot.
Well, the first thing that I have to think about when I see when you're pulling out the rule set is, I know a lot of people that house rule D&D. I don't know that in the history of our game that there has been a group that faithfully commits the rules to actually pen and paper as well as your group does. That's incredibly impressive to me.
Well, thank you.
I look at your list of feats and things like that, and I think it's a really cool innovation that you have decided to work in there. But I would want to ask you this: do you tend to also use non-weapon proficiencies?
We do, but with a specialized class called a Maester, which kind of Bill Cesar-Scorin made up himself. He ripped it
Uh-huh.
off from Game of Thrones, of course. And now we have alchemy, we have leatherworking, we have armoring, we have.
The reason I ask that is
Mhm.
because when your game, because I've never watched it, I see the stuff that's actually on the Twitch and things like that, and 9/10 of that is actually the adventuring combat side of it. I
Right,
don't get to see what happens during downtime, during actual role play stuff, when a lot of that non-weapon proficiency kind
right,
of thing would come into play.
right, right.
So, um, I wonder how involved that is in your game.
It's becoming more and more because we realized that there was a hole, and I forgot a book. So I have a book just on alchemy downstairs. I've from how that, remember that list of all the components in it's in Dungeon
Mhm.
Master's Guide, and there's a couple articles in Dragons that have it. So I've actually compiled an alchemy book for usage. Bill came up with some great rules on how to make healing potions, how to make other potions with components, and we've kind of worked that in. So witches get it in our, because witches is a specialty class in ours, and the maesters could take alchemy, and so we're working other stuff into the game to give it
Mhm.
more flavor and to give it just to continually evolve our game, and that's the thing. Our guys don't want it to be static ever, and it's not.
Right.
We're always trying something new, and that's the cool
Well, I
thing.
think that's important too when you have a veteran crew like yours.
Thanks. Thanks. I appreciate that. And that means a lot coming from you, man, because I completely respect. It's just everyone who's new out there watching. Oh, what's going on Saturday? I'll tell you in a second, Hydroxus. It's going to be fun. Um, when Carlos signs up a convention at GaryCon, wherever, it's filled with signups within an hour, right?
It is, it
It's
is, and Hydroxos will be the first one to tell you that. It's
yeah.
becoming really hard to get into my games at different conventions.
We're trying. Yeah. So Bill says the non-weapon stuff is limited. In our RP aspect, there's always like people belong to in Greyhawk City. They belong to guilds and are out doing,
Right.
like, we have one of Alan's characters belongs to the Street Sweepers Guild, so
Uh-huh.
she can get close to Bill's character Salen, the crazy necromancer, because she's infatuated with him. That's the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes for us, And so our RP tends to be at the beginning of the night, right at the beginning of that 7:30, and there's going to be a lot of it this Thursday, guys. Promise you on that. So Hydroxus Saturday night, 8:30. We pushed it back 30 minutes. Brian had a conflict. 8:30 p.m. Anna, 8:30 p.m. Bill, 8:30 p.m. Naz. We're going to do a 5e fantasy ground game in Greyhawk, one character each, and we have them all made up. Bill and Brian Sublime is going to DM. So I'm looking forward to it. So here it is, Hydroxus, real quick. There you go. There's my character. I have a specialty priest, Clark Paler. So, okay. So there's a lot of things, Carlos, that we're doing, and we try, and I've said some of these, they just don't work. We had no one was taking blind fighting, for example, and blind fighting is actually it's an ability given out with some magic items, even, the capability
Yeah.
of being able to fight, without a -4 penalty, with a limited penalty of -2.
Sure.
So we took it and said, well, if this person's got in their senses, I made it so they're -2 to hit in darkness or versus invisible, but at 8th level there's no penalty, and then people started taking it. So I'm trying to expand some feats into the proficiency system that makes it so that people will change the flavors of their fighters,
Right.
change them up. Another good one's Dirty Fighting, one of the favorites of all the crazy characters in the game. Dirty Fighting, first swing, you hit, you do an extra 1 to 4. Elbow, kick in the groin, that's a
Right.
Dirty Fighter. Improved Dirty Fighting, second attack that round, 1 to 2 points. So we've actually added Dirty Fighting and improved Dirty Fighting.
One
Now,
of the things, one of the criticisms that you hear players levy towards first edition and even towards second edition in some respects is that characters tend to look a lot alike. Um, Once you play the game for a little while, you tend to You get characters that look too similar to one another. The more rules that you have in place, the more options that you have, the less that's a valid criticism. So I can see how your game really you have a very wide range of different players that whereas the none of the characters really has a looks the same at all.
That's the thing, is that Alan, for example, never wants to have a character that's similar to any of his other 65 other characters. All right, because we have dude, that's where it's gotten. Because we have 19 adventuring groups. Carlos, it's insane, but it's the way we play and we love it, and that's the whole point. Everyone love. There's
Oh,
there.
well, the only reason
Sure.
that will ever become a problem, though, is, Jay, if your system isn't committed to paper. If the rules
Right.
are just, hey, this loose understanding, like a lot of games, their homebrew rules tend to be, that becomes a problem then because the rules are inconsistently applied.
Right.
But with you guys, it's so integrated into the actual core rules
Yeah.
that yeah, it's just taken for granted almost,
It is, and going back
which is
to.
super cool.
Well, thanks. Thanks. I would hate to see what would happen if I had a fire in my. God, don't ever say that. But, I mean, I have these things. I have them on a computer disk. I have backups of backups. Everything's printed, but like the basement's like. Oh, Sprocketeer said, "Oh, you better have flood insurance." I said, "No, I don't. Sprocket, don't worry about it. We're covered. I got a special rider on everything. We're covered here, with all that." But yeah, I mean, you
By the
look at.
way, Wicked, you're absolutely right, but it's still a criticism you do hear a lot from newer players is that 1E is just so stock, for better or for worse. I do hear that quite a bit. So
So
I tend to agree with you.
Hydraxos is which player? Did I play with him?
Hydroxys was in our second night, and
Okay,
that's my friend Magnus.
Magnus. Okay. Oh, I remember Magnus was saying. Okay, Magnus. Here's the answer to that. Our characters never end. Period. Just like in real life. They go on, they retire, they have families, their next generation of kids adventure, they get involved in political intrigue. That's what happens. That's why we have a living, breathing campaign. They don't go off into the sunset. They're somewhere on that map. They're in their keep. They're working for the Order of Ulick. They're working for one of them's the mayor of the city of Altamira. That's what happens to our characters. It's all, they end when they die. That's the campaign. So, and then
How
occasionally,
often do you feel like you have character death in your game?
natural. We have never naturally. We have a character coming up on a natural death. We have a human that has a low early death. It's one of Tim's. You may actually die a natural death in a couple of years of game time. So, absolutely. But death is part of the game. We
Yeah.
keep it running, and you know. Yeah, and that's it. So Will and I talked, and that's how Will's going to do his too. And I think it's our style once again. I love that Elijah Winchester the fourth goes back, and I played Elijah Winchester the third and Elijah Winchester the second back in the early '80s, right? It's just and they're two of them are alive. And that's just one's dead, one died a long time ago, and that's just the way it is. With our thing, it's like someone asked me, a person who's never played D&D asked this question. How do you answer this, Carlos? What do you do in D&D?
Well, I would say that if I was just talking to somebody who'd never played the game before, you get a chance to role play a unique experience in a fantasy role playing setting where you're adventuring and you're dealing with fantastic and exciting situations.
Right. What I
To me, that's how I would put it.
what I tell them is this: think of your favorite TV show that's been on, like Seinfeld, that's been on all those years. Everyone's an episode. Every adventure's an episode. They may not connect, but they may, right? And then it goes on, and sometimes, why is that character in, and he wasn't in last week? right? And
Right.
well, someone showed up that wasn't there last week, right? And we just pop them in. It's kind of those kind of weird things, and that's how I try to explain. I said, "Well, do you?" And they go, "Well, how do you win?" And I say to them, "Well, do
Uh,
you win or lose in real life? You
yeah.
got to think of these characters as if they exist in a real world." I mean, that
Exactly.
sounds insane, but you know, so
No, 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 no. When you're my background, for those of you out there who don't know me very well, I was a creative writing major at in college, and one of the things they always try to tell you when you're in early creative writing classes is that you have to imagine your characters as in their own self-contained continuum where they their real life, they have their their every, just like you and I have individual foibles that make us who we are, so too do your characters if you really want to make them live and breathe.
right. Right. And you have to, in order for it to be as, I don't know, I'm not saying real, but in order for it, you got to create a background story. You got to do all that stuff. And you got to think of the campaign itself. Why is the character there?
Right.
And I kind of thought about that for the 5e game that Brian's going to have on Saturday night. I made up a character who's a sister of two other characters I have in my campaign. Because
Okay.
I want this to be part of it. I don't want it to be separate. You know, it's part of that world, and Mark's game's part of the world too. So but I know
You know,
we digressed a little bit. That's okay.
speaking of digressing, I'm going to bring this back around to the fighter class a
Go
little bit
for it.
because there's something I've been thinking about as we've been talking, that occurred to me. You've had to make a lot of solutions based around weapon specialization. All right. I'm going to suggest this. I don't know that this is true, but it would make some sense to me. If you remember the original Greyhawk campaign, and again, the Greyhawk campaign and Gary's own campaign, these are the things that informed the rule set to a large degree. It's very human-centric. And as such, you're not dealing with a lot of multi-class characters. As a consequence of that, I can see the way that they rolled out weapon specialization, them looking at it and saying, okay, this makes perfect sense because they're used to dealing with single classes.
Right.
If you put weapon specialization, you tack it onto a fighter magic user
Oh,
or a fighter magic user thief or something crazy like that, all of a sudden it becomes something it wasn't intended,
right.
and you have to do a lot of solution. You have to resolve a lot of problems that arise out of these things that were unintended consequences of the rules in the first place.
I agree, and that's why we've never allowed weapon specialization in a multi-class fighter. And I'm going to show you the styles. I categorize it into 6 styles. This is very general that we have evolved into, and they don't all characters don't fit into this, but this is just in our 1E2E game where they went. And then you have the multi-class jack of all trades is style 5, because there is a place for that character in our game, because I love playing. I play a backup. I play jack of all trades, a clerk mage thief, or a fighter clerk mage, or whatever, in case they need they need that heal, or they need something. So there's always a spot for the multi-class fighter in our game to this day.
Mhm.
uh, uh, and Now dual class is a whole separate story. I mean, you can really take
Right.
advantage of dual classing with a human. So here's this, but here's our fighter class updates that we came up with in addition to the feat system. Oh, and let me go back to that too, because we added, instead of a fighter getting a new proficiency / feat at 4th, at 7th, we made it at 3rd, at 5th, at 7th. We added
Okay.
it. So let me go to that. Here's this fighter class updates chart. All right. So fighters, they get 3 specialization slots now. They can only double once because there's only 3 slots. They can take 3 singles if they want. They can't take anything in the secondary hand, which means they can do halberd. They can do halberd, longsword, crossbow. But remember, they got to take that. You only have to take 1 specialization to start, no doubles at first level. So as you go up in characters, that's when you take specializations. You don't get them to start. You get 1 single at first. That's it. So that solved the problem of the double guy right off the bat. Part 2, strength. And this is what we did this. This really makes sense in our game. If you're fighting with a 2-handed weapon, now you may say this goes too far the other way. We've had some really massive damage dealers. Strength is 1.5 times. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So if you have +2/+4, you're now +2/+6 with
I see.
say halberd, two-handed sword. Secondary hand. Primary hand's fine. This is irrespective of dexterity penalties. Secondary hand, half, round down. So if you're +1/+3 and you're fighting with a dagger in your secondary hand, +1/+1. Cuts it out. That cuts the. We did that, and now there's more balance in the game, and it flows better. People now are taking different styles of fighters now because of that. So, oh, I missed a joke there. Rocks. Oh man, see, it's gonna be all over the place. So, everyone, the Winchesters are gonna be like crazy there. So, yeah, that's awesome.
What
Yeah.
you've done over here. First of
Mhm.
all, you just mentioned going too far the other way.
Mhm.
I really don't look at it in terms of that.
Okay.
When you're criticizing rules of homebrews, you have to take into account the context of the campaign and exactly, we've talked all about the player characters, but we haven't talked a bit about what you're doing for the monsters or anything like that to mitigate things
Oh, they get it
or,
too.
because that, yeah, it may seem like it goes the other way, but that rule may be actually a balancing for something else in the campaign that you're not aware of. So it's really, I'm not, I would never criticize any of the homebrew rules. I
Right.
would ask questions about them,
Absolutely.
but not. I don't think it's fair really to criticize them because you don't understand the entire context
Yeah.
of the game.
I value your input as much as I value my players' inputs because you have done it as long as I have, and you've seen everything out there. So
What I will say is
Mhm.
this: again, we're both playing in the world of Greyhawk,
Mhm.
and one of the things I think is really, really neat about what you're doing is, as far as I know, you're running two primary campaigns as we speak. One of them is in the Defiled Glades, and the other one is in Ulick. Okay, stop me if I'm incorrect about that.
No, yeah, well, that's the Druid group. We have something in the
But there's
Shieldlands.
a
Yeah,
larger
yeah.
point I would like to
Mhm.
make about that. Okay,
Sure.
Defiled Glades are over near the Vesvi.
Mhm.
Okay, Order Ulick, you're in the middle of Ulick. Okay, both of those have high demi-human populations. All
Yes.
right. By contrast, I primarily play in Perrinland, which is a very high human
Human.
concentration with assorted gnomes and dwarves. As a consequence of that, you have to deal with multi-class characters far, far more than I do.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that informs not only the tenor of the campaign, but the way you apply rules. Actually,
True.
you have to deal with certain situations far more often than I do.
And one thing I'll say is that we don't allow beyond the base races.
Mhm.
We had that talk, and
Right.
we it's half orc and half ogre is as far as it goes. Elves, dwarves, gnomes, halflings. Of different types of those, but within
I did
half
hear
elves,
you
humans.
mention that you allow dark elves.
We allow dark elves. They kind of were trendy in the 90s. Right after Arcana once again, and then when the dual wielding, specialized in each hand, Cavalier or Dark Elf comes out, it just was ridiculous. So I went
I'm
back.
going to go on record right now as saying that, and let the haters speak if they wish. I despise dark elf characters. I loathe that.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. I will tell you this: my Bible for Dark Elves in my campaign is D3.
okay.
Okay, I like Dark Elves bucklers, weapon buckler, right?
Hmm.
Atlatl javelin. That is a dark D3 is it's not Menzo Barras and box set, all that bullshit. All the forgotten sorry guys, all the Forgotten Realms bullshit. It's the old school D3 dark elves. That's what I say that to my guys all the time. Now they're still nasty, but that's where death lances,
Yeah.
that's my dark elves, for the big, the guys coming up against the Clavders of the world. I don't
Yeah.
go we learned our lesson with. Oh, they can use a weapon in each hand with no penalty. We learned our lesson with that. So, yeah, our dark elves have. Bill, when was this? Anytime anybody played a dark elf, it's got to be 5 to 7 years ago. Uh, was it Alan? We had one. We had two of them. Nomi. There was a dark elf was in love with a gnome. a deep gnome, and one was named Romeo, and one was named Juliet. You know, it was kind of it was a joke, right? Yeah, Anna though, yes. Anna is Juliana, yeah, that and whatever the other one was. That was the last ones we had. So once again, my players don't go out to power game the character, which is good, because that's not the fun of it. The fun of it is developing the character and interacting with the other characters, interacting in the world. You know, so
Right.
I got
And
great players.
Hydraxos, you
Moreau,
mentioned that about the class choices in a setting region. Well, for example, we know in Perrinland that they export mercenaries and that they do a lot of pike formation. So as a result, you tend to see a lot of fighters using pikes or pole arms in a Perrinland campaign when I'm running it. So yeah, absolutely, it definitely informs what
yeah,
you know your what you now obviously player characters are meant to be exceptions to rules,
yeah.
but when you're meeting npcs and things like that, that is your percentage is going to be much higher when you and again, if you're meeting people that are in the bandit kingdoms near rift canyons, it's going to be a different story.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to digress again here. I'm going to tell you a story of a dark elf real quick. So Walt has Colby who's on here, has a character, Devitt, fighter, cleric, thief. No specializations, none of that stuff. Very basic stats. Went on the first original Temple of Elemental Evil in 86, 87. They freed King Thrommel. Prince Thrommel becomes king. They become friends. He actually, remember how he gives the final word sword to a member of the party, supposedly at the end?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He gives it to her.
Okay.
He gives it to she. She loses it in a deck of many things draw.
Oh,
Because you lose your pull that one in the card, you lose your yeah. So that was kind of, but she actually does work in Furiandi. She's an ideolic. Works in old school character. Works in Furiandi for the king in his light horse brigade unit. You know, so there's depth to that character, and she was a dark elf. So I mean, it goes. Yeah, I understand.
Hydroxos potentially, yes. I mean, for example, you're going to see a lot more specialization with that pike weapon in Perrinland than you would anywhere
Absolutely.
else. So yeah, there are mechanical benefits and restrictions. I don't think you guys can see it over here, but right over here next to me, you'll notice I have that white dragon mini over there.
Yep.
If you look really close to it, there's a Drizzt Dwarden figure in its mouth. So
that is so awesome. That is so awesome. Oh, you know what? Don't get me started on Salvatore Carlos. The world where no one ever dies. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
And there he is.
That's so great.
Next my great
that is so awesome. Oh, that made my night, man. That made my night. But there's a place for dark elves. We actually and
in the mouths of ancient white dragons.
Now here's another one. Alan took a half drow, half dark elf that the Winchester family found as an orphan. She has no benefits, no penalties, half elf drow, and raised her up as like a sister to Kieran and Elijah IV Winchester. Okay, and they're in the Iron Brigade that was on that mission with, everyone saw on Saturday night against a Miracle on the charity stream. That he took the penalties. Right. So I mean that's my players, and that's a good thing. So hey, there's the good with the bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a player character, actually, it's funny you should say that, float me a very similar idea for a PC at one point in time. They never got the chance to play that PC, but that was an idea that did get floated to me one time. So it's not that unusual as you might think. And I like that too, Mike. I think that that's a great idea. It makes sense. I mean, your region is going to inform what what kind of characters and what kind of weapons you use. It makes perfect sense.
Here's another thing that I would just throw out to you guys. Cavalier from the not the Underarcana. Cavalier from the Dragon magazine is the one we use. I hate the Cavalier in Underarcana. We talked about that a long time ago in previous episodes. And they're +2 to hit, +1 damage. I love that specialization on pole arms over the other way around, especially long thrusting weapons. That's instead of +1, +2 to start as a single. So certain classes we do +2, +1 instead of +1, +2. Now fighters we always do +1, +2, but the Saxons of the world and the Cavaliers of the world we allow the +2, +1. So just something to consider.
Absolutely.
All right. So any questions? Okay. Tom, good to see you on tonight. You're gonna have Tom's got some brand new characters he's playing Thursday night. He's excited about it, and always a treat, Carlos. He said Tom loves when you come on and loves when you
thanks so
commentate.
much, man. I really appreciate it. It's great for Jay to have me on, and I treasure moments like this, talking with another old school guy and with a crowd over here that's obviously intelligent and informed. And you guys are all great gamers. You can tell it just right through the chat with some of the questions you get asked and some of the comments I'm reading.
Here, Will has a great question, and I'm going to answer it. So let's get back to the fighter class updates. I ripped something off from World of Warcraft because straight fighters don't have any special abilities. We gave them one. Okay, now I don't know if it's too far for you, Carlos, but if you ever played World of Warcraft, there's and I call it a rally cry almost. We call it Battle Shout, Demoralizing Shout. This is what it is. It's a free action, straight fighters only, no multis. Okay, at 4th level, within 10 feet, they can almost like do a rallying cry. Everyone gets +1 to hit for 1 round per level of their ability, free action. A fighter straight. They can do demoralizing against their enemies, kind of like almost like a taunt ability, which is a feat. They can go, screw you or whatever. -1 to those creatures fighting within 10 feet. It stacks with bless. It stacks with prayer. It stacks with like a bard singing. Thanks, Rox. Thank you. And 8th level becomes +2, and that's it.
Never Lord Grendelwolf, but I have done that with monks in the past using certain Oriental Adventures martial arts. But going back to what you're saying, Jay, something that would be really cool with that is, let's say I played a fighter and had that at 5th level, multi-classed over eventually into a bard and had that, and would that have I could see that being a really cool way of going into being a bard.
Bard's not multi, Bard's dual treble. So yes, you would keep it.
Yeah.
You're switching.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, much like how magical instruments work to double effect in the hands of a bard, I could see that having a neat effect.
Absolutely.
In that, when employed by a bard.
And we have Alan. I don't know if Bill's still on. I know it's Game of Thrones time. Alan has a bard in the group, the Ulick Defenders Against Slavery group. Pendy Willow Song, and she does that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So absolutely. We've noticed our bards, and by the way, we've never talked about bards. We're gonna do an entire Gabbin on bards, because we have 3 different styles of bards too: song bard, illusionist bard, druid bard. So like a skald. So who asked the question about Grendelwolf? Here's our classes, by the way, real quick. These are our classes. 1E, 2E, just to show you real quick. A lot of custom stuff. All right.
Wicked Studios asked a cool question about what our favorite subclass of fighters are. Jay, since you have so many of them, I'll let you answer that one first.
Let's start with this. We'll talk about the 6. I'll just tell you what the 6 are, and we'll go over details. The tank. Okay, the tank, obvious. The 2-fisted damage dealer. 2-fisted finesse fighter. The 2-handed cleaver fighter. Okay, that's 2-handed sword, halberd. Just getting that extra damage bonus. The multi-class jack of all trades fighter, and then the missile specialist fighter. Okay, they're the 6. Let's give you an example. The tank with our feats brought into. Now remember, a fighter starts with 4. They got to take their weapons. They get 1 every 2 levels. So at 3rd, they get another one. At 5th, 7th, 9th, they get more. Okay, so they can develop the flavor of the character. So here's some of the feat abilities that they should take as they're going up. Obviously, specialization. Because every fighter should take a single class should wants multiple attacks. We have an ability called Shield Mastery. I brought this in because we were losing shield wielding fighters in the early 2000s. No one was taking shields anymore. I was like, well, how do I stop this? And then we came up with a shield. Here's what Shield Mastery does. If you have a Masterwork shield, it gives you an extra plus on your defense. If you have a +1 shield, you have Shield Mastery, you get an extra +1 on your defense. Front facing, obviously. Okay, that's not a regular shield. So if you have a plus, so Shield Mastery is a skill. Then there's a one after that's called Sword and Board. If you go style, one-handed weapon shield, +1 to hit with whatever weapon you wield with. Okay, but does not stack with double specialization.
Okay.
All right. So it stacks with single. So you'd be +2 to hit, +2 damage at that point. So say you're fighting with a battle axe, shield, specialization, shield mastery, sword and board, taunt. Stole it right from World of Warcraft, right? Taunt is simple. Come here, you within 10 feet, you're trying to draw, you want to fight that opponent. So our fighters are hardcore paladins or hardcore cavaliers. They'll take taunt because they want to draw the baddie to them. Now, they get a save. And as they scale up, it does obviously the effect. And Bill always argues with me about the effectiveness of this. Oh, it shouldn't, you should be able to taunt 15th level fight. I said, no, they're not going to, the low, crazy little things are going to take the taunt. A smart guy is not going to, take the taunt. And then we have a thing called mass taunt, which does 3. That's a tank.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Please do.
Let me suppose that you're playing an elvish character with that ability, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is trying to taunt somebody in a language they don't know.
Doesn't work.
Does it affect? Okay.
So that adds, I want to know Orcish. I want to know Goblin. I want to know Ogrish. I want to know Hill Giant. I want to know, right? Now, a dragon, you could theoretically taunt a dragon because a lot of dragons are versed in common. That is a great question. You have to understand to some degree, right? So you can't taunt something that's non-intelligent. You can't taunt a golem. You can't, it's obvious stuff. So, good question. Do we feel each group needs a tank, though? The answer to that is no. They don't. And the group we are going to run this week really does not have a hardcore tank because there's all sorts of vagabond characters in Hardby, and they're all sailor types. So we'll show you that coming up. Now, I think one or two of them took taunt anyway because they like to fight. So, yeah. Yes.
To answer for my part of this question is going to be really simple because I don't have all the variants that Jay does. But Wicked, to answer your question, when I'm playing, my favorite subclass to the fighter is the Ranger. When I am running a game, I like Paladins a lot. Right.
So I don't know if Will was talking about a style of fighter or another class. So, and that's a good question. My favorite is the Duelist. I love the Duelist, and that was right out of the Dragon. I love Duelists. Love. They're chaotic. They have but they're rare. They're very rare in our game. But out of all these, I like what Bill's done, and Bill's still on. Bill has a finesse fighter. She fights short sword. She doesn't have a strength bonus. She takes the weapon finesse, which now you're fighting with dexterity instead of strength, which means you're getting no damage bonuses. But you hit a lot, but you don't do as much damage. She fights short sword, very high plus to hit in her primary hand, but not a lot of damage. And so that's called two-fisted finesse fighter. They take specialization, usually double in the primary, two-fisted fighting and weapon finesse in both hands if possible. You're allowed to finesse in your secondary hand in our game. I know it's a lot, Carlos. I'm throwing a lot out there.
No, I'm following it so far because one of the things, if you're a veteran gamer, I think you have a tendency to, when you watch or listen to other games, you kind of are deconstructing them a little bit to see how rule mechanics are working and things like that. So when I'm watching your games play out and when I'm listening to you speak about your games, I'm always doing that. I'm pulling it apart, trying to see what I can what I can use for my own game, what I think is really cool, what makes sense, things like that.
And the thing with our game is you don't see this because our guys know it, right?
Uh-huh.
So you don't even see. They're not talking about, oh well, I have this specialization. Yeah, they just know, and they have their pluses to hit and damage, and they roll, and they already, my guys. It's not like they're veterans of the group. I mean, Bill is the most recent player, Shashar scoring, and he's from 1992.
Wow. By the
So
way, I'm deciding I'm moving around just a little bit to give a little bit
that's
of
good.
shine to my white dragon over here, who it looks like is becoming the Castle Entertainment mascot, slowly but surely.
That was that. I love that, man. That. I see. Drizzt abuse could be considered a crime if you were within 200 yards of R.A. Salvatore, though. You got to be careful.
Oh, that's all right. I'm willing to take my chances.
Yeah, well, technically, Tom's a new guy. He came back, Bill. I was just saying as far as old time. So, here's how you can create a cool fighter mage.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yes, name the
White dragon.
Absolutely. Name it Carlos.
Right now I'm thinking Drizzt Doom is a little too on the nose, but maybe we'll think of something better.
Yeah. DD Doom.
I should mention this though, Lord Grindelwolf, as a little bit of a sneak peek. May for my Patreon is Dragon Month.
Nice.
So everything is going to be dragon themed, so maybe I will throw that out there as part of the competition. Is name the Castle Entertainment White Dragon over there.
And I get if you can throw your link up for your Patreon, and if you want to do it now, hey, and we'll do it at the end of the night too, because let me tell you something, these modules that Carlos makes, they are better, much higher quality than the old N1, the old G series. They're beautiful works, guys.
Thanks, man.
I'm telling you, I'm honored to maybe be we'll talk about that and maybe at the end of the night too.
Yeah, well, we can tease it a little bit.
We can tease them a little bit. And look, they just popped up.
Are in discussion for collaborating on future projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be pretty cool. One of the things that I'm glad you brought up the modules. One of the things that we're working on, always making them better and improving them. For example, we're earmarking a lot of the Patreon money that we're pulling in towards doing a lot more in the way of interior art. So that will really help improve the product considerably, I think.
That's awesome. I mean,
thank you a lot, Lord Grindelwolf. We really appreciate it, buddy.
And Grindelwolf and Hydraxis, I know you're Carlos regulars. I really appreciate you hopping on here and watching this discussion. This is I'm having a blast.
Well, Jay, you and I mean, we're part of the same community. We're doing Greyhawk stuff. We're both old schoolers. Yeah. I mean, your people are my people, and my people are yours. I mean, we have something very much in common, and I think it even though we play the game differently, like you have all these variant rules that are very cool. Yeah. You have such a long-lived campaign. There is something that we very much share in heritage. I mean, we're all the sons of Gygax, really. So.
Oh, absolutely. And see, I should have worn this tonight, but I was rushed.
Oh, nice. Thank you, buddy.
I should have worn it tonight.
Roxafarius, I actually already have made a top secret module. It's called Operation Overlord. It was promoted at GaryCon last year. It was actually really well received. Hydroxos over there was part of that game, actually. He took place in it, so he can tell you about it. I thought it went really, really well. So yeah, that's...
So, Carlos, Bill says, sure scoring. The one he wrote for us was fun, except for all the poison saves.
Just wait, Bill, until you see this next one.
Wait till warts and all. Yeah. Oh man, you're gonna see like the throbbing right here in the temple, the blood vessels. Bill has walked out of one game. One game back in my old house, we had this thing called an atrocity weight. And I used the Nipper dog from RCA. I had one like this big, and he just
Oh boy! No poison needles, Hydroxus. I went. This one over here is. There's a couple encounters in there where I looked at my wife when I was done writing them. I looked over here. I said, These guys are gonna hate my guts when I'm done.
Definitely not. No, definitely not. I'm looking forward to running it, and I think the next Harby Adventures next 2 weeks. If you guys saw the entry screen, we're going to do a major event coming up, the Defensive Watchers Towers. I think the week before I start that, warts and all, I think I can get it, warts and all, it's a one-nighter. I think I can do it then. In between, I think that's when we're going to
Yeah,
do it.
Warts and All isn't all that long. It'll
Yeah.
be a fun. Thanks, man. I appreciate Greta Wolf. But Jace, just for you and for your group, I'm working on another project right now. My Patreon stuff, I'm caught up until like July right now.
Cool.
So it'll be pretty soon that I'm working on the third installment for Eula.
Beautiful. And that's our new first level group now. Some of the characters are up to like third, fourth, and it's working well with that. So, Zip Fighter, multi-class jack of all trades. Will listen to this. You can take a precise strike. You get a +1 to hit with a weapon because you can't specialize. That allows you to take. The other things. We have what's called an improved critical. We use keen weapons a lot.
Okay.
But you can take an improved critical. It's a prerequisite, though. You have to either have a specialization, you have to have a finesse, or a precise strike first. Then that turns your weapon into a keen weapon if it's not keen. So you crit in a 19 or 20. It doesn't stack. These guys try to do, no, 18 or 20, one or the other. 19, 20, that's it. So you could take an improved critical if you had a precise strike. This is a fighter mage. 4 specializations at first, right? So you take your weapons. You can take shield mastery later on, sword and board, two-fisted fighting. You can do all sorts of things. You can mix and match now, and that's what I wanted to get to that point where you did, the character could go any direction. And I think with what we did with this proficiency list, with the specialization table, changing the way we did attacks and damage, I think it works.
Yeah.
For us.
How do your criticals actually function, Jay?
All right. So Alan if you critical hit, we have a special table. I showed that on last week's show. Alan has created it. You roll 0, 1 to 100 on the percentile die. It could be double, it could be triple. There's all sorts of nasty effects. Like Tom's Lanuti 66 in the adventure we did the first week of it, he came in. He was fighting an Orog from a Black Death squad. First swing, long sword, critical hit, decapitated. The head's rolling off. I mean, that was a lucky kick.
I do have to tell you, as far as the critical hits go, you can certainly do worse by using the Rollmaster system. As a base.
I've never looked at it. Could you give me a reference to when we're done off? Just let me know.
Of course I can.
Okay. All right. Cool. Because we're always looking to incorporate other things.
The Rollmaster system has a really cool critical hit system. It employs spell critical hits, trap critical hits. Yeah, it does a lot of cool stuff. Well, Hydraxos, he's just name checked it himself over there. So yeah.
Awesome. We will always look at something, and I'll always pilfer a little here, a little there, and work through it. And that's the great thing in our game. And then I play test it on a character, or I allow my guys to play test it. We are play testing.
Lots of love out there for that Rollmaster critical hit system.
We've never used it. Never looked at it.
It's pretty cool. It does a lot of there's a lot of really cool critical hits in
awesome.
there. I mean, not to say that it's going to supplant what you do over there, obviously, but it's something that might give some inspiration.
I would always look for something that makes sense for us to add, and if the guys go, this is good, this adds some flavor, this adds some variety, it's easy to incorporate into our system. Yeah, we would absolutely look at something like that. So something else, and you may have seen it going through. We added weapons. Okay. All right. People were getting bored with the weapons, so we added some.
Okay.
There's an article in, it's like swords that do all kinds of things, I think the article was. And I'm sorry, I don't have my weapons book. That's downstairs too. My items and weapons book I didn't bring that up, but I got the chart here. We looked at a couple different things, like dwarven weapons. Maybe there should be more in the game. There's great weapons of antiquity that are not Dacian Falx is a fantastic weapon. We added that in. We added the Sayax, the Viking longsword, in. The Sayax does the exact same damage as the longsword. So it's right here. 1 to 8, 1 to 12. Does the same damage. Flavor.
Right. And I think that's you hit on what I was going to bring up before. I was thinking as you were speaking that I really like it when where other races have their own weapons, because it makes sense. It makes sense that these guys would have parallel discovery or innovation based on their own experiences. For example, if you're fighting in, I don't know, the Axewood with a demi-human your whole time, you may end up creating a weapon that works in such a way that it works for your environment better than what is considered stock. So
Absolutely. And in the game, you want your character to be differentiated somehow. Walt is
right,
big on this. The Dwarven Claymore, okay? Two-handed weapon for a dwarf, 2 to 8, 2 to 12. Dwarf only, okay? He's got a fighter thief. He does this brilliantly. Fighter thief.
a lot of damage.
But he fights short sword most of the time in his leather armor. But if he
Okay,
needs to be the backup fighter, he brings out his claymore.
right,
So he likes to sneak. He's a fighter thief. He plays a fighter thief perfectly because he's not just all, and he doesn't get multiple attacks. He's multi-class.
right.
So it's a great flavor changer. We have a lot
Yeah,
of guys who do that. They have two styles. They'll take a two-handed weapon, and in fact, the character Andrew Harlow that Alan's playing on Thursday night, he has two-handed sword, and then he has short swords, and he
right.
has two. He'll decide based on the situation which style he's going to fight. Cool change ups,
Mhm. And Hydroxos, I really like the fast cinematic combat too. The way that I think is best to handle that is DM prep. For example, when I go into a game, I always have a matrix on hand that
Oh,
tells
interesting.
me all the monsters that the players can fight, what their ACs are, as opposed to the weapons that the player characters have. So at a glance, I always know exactly what you need, so that I don't get slowed down at all.
And that's a great point. And I'm going to say what I've been doing lately is based on the fight. I've been trying to keep the armor classes, not talking about high level NPCs, baddies, but I've been trying to keep the armor class as close as possible in the
Oh,
fights to the same. Like
Oh,
even
it's great. Yeah,
yeah,
that's great to do as
yeah,
well. It's one of those things that you kind of do underneath the table. For example,
yes,
there's a lot
yes,
of monsters out there that have AC 7, a lot of low-level monsters. And if you throw them all in there at the same time,
yeah.
it just your calculations become a lot easier.
But it's amazing. I go on that old first level table I have up there, and I go, okay, armor class 4, fifth level fighters need 12, because 4 through 6 clerics need
Right.
13, 14. And what do I need to hit? Guys, come on. I just, we still get that, after 39 years of playing, you still get that. But that's okay. But yeah, that's some of the tricks that you and I have learned after all these years is you
Sure,
got to
absolutely.
make it simple for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, and trying to.
Because like you said earlier in the broadcast, the less time you're worried about rule weight, the
Yep.
more time you can spend doing descriptive, discussion of the environment, or doing RP, role playing stuff, which is really what makes your game come to life. So the lack of rule weight really helps you out in that regard.
It is. I learned. A lot of people say, "How do I start DMing?" And first thing you need to do is you got to figure out what excites you as a DM, and then I should be talking about this next week, but let's talk about this now. Um, and then maybe try and find one or two people that maybe are similar. And there's not for us, it's hard, right? Um, and then just create your own style. I mean, and then and figure out. But know this: if you are playing and your players are not having a good time, you're not going to be a DM for long. So you
No,
guys, you
yeah,
have to pull them in. So
yeah, absolutely. And there's that old saying that there's horses for courses. I mean, you what your particular style of DMing may not work very well for a particular group, but it may be perfect for another one.
Absolutely. And that's where I know I've been talking about this with a lot of people in the Twitch world. Your game's different than any of the other games we see because you're playing with these miniatures and you got all these crazy, you got all these rules. It's tactical, but that's okay. I mean, that's the way we do it. And that's just what my guys like. And then my guys, and I'm not, once again, this is not belittling anyone out there, please. My guys say to me, I can't sit there and watch the theater. I can't watch a Theater of the Mind game. A couple of them have said that because it's just, I'm not used to it. I just don't like it. I said, well, that's okay, guys.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's games for everyone, Yeah,
absolutely. Everybody likes a different, and that's the cool thing about the game and the hobby in general is that there's so many different ways to play it. It's part of Gary Gygax's genius. There's so many different ways to play it, and you can do it whatever way you like. And, you'll find a group, water finds its level, and you'll find a group that works for you eventually.
And don't get frustrated. Just keep at it, because you'll find your niche. That's what I always say. And I'm so excited to have Brian, who I've known since 2004, DM for me. And it's been, I've known him for 15 years. The first time he's ever DM for me next Saturday, and it's going to be a blast. So, any questions about the fighter, guys? I can send some of the notes. I can send some of the things. I know Rock's always asked for. I am free with my stuff as long as you give me credit for it. I'm free with it, man. Whatever you want, I have no problem sending it as long as the file's not large enough. I'll send whatever you guys of my stuff. I've no, I want to get it out there, so it's not an issue. Know this, that if you ever have a question during the night, Brian is good with moderating. Mark's, when he's not falling asleep in the corner of and he's not on, so busting the stones. In the corner of the screen when Mark's not falling asleep, he's good at moderating too. They'll answer your questions as we're playing. So yeah, thanks, Bill. What's a fighter?
Wicked. I don't think you can go wrong if you're at higher levels. The girdle of giant strength has got to be right up near the top of the list. A little bit less for gauntlets of ogre power. Any really strength boosting magical items are really, really nice. As far as underrated goes, I really like the bracers of archery for a fighter type that you go specializes in bows. I think those are really cool.
Bill, when was the last time I gave out a girdle or gauntlets of ogre power? Another very rare item in my game. You're absolutely correct.
He did ask.
Final Word Sword's one of the best. And they may be coming across some of the Final Word Sword within a month, so we'll see that. All right, so I'll send you my class chart, Grendel, and the proficiencies if you just whisper me your email, okay? All right.
Grendel is becoming a very dear friend of mine.
That's
actually,
awesome.
We correspond quite a bit offline, and
Beautiful.
you want to talk about a guy who really who
gets
embodies the spirit of the old school. That's one of your guys.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. Is he going to be at Gen Con?
No, I don't believe so. He can tell you himself.
I'm going to do this.
I'm still engineering a way to get Grendelwolf into one of my games as far as being a player goes. I'll figure something out though.
Cool. Yeah, I've given I've given Gaunts of a Grillin strength lately. They're +2, +3. I've kind of the +3, +7s of the world are they're nasty. And once you give them out, you have to be, what's going to happen in your campaign if you do that. So
okay, well, how about this then? If we're going to go a little bit less, we'll go a little more subtle. Potion of Invulnerability is a nice one.
Oh, it's
because
beautiful.
It makes you a little bit a harder target against those pesky saves versus spells.
Well, also, it makes you immune to non-magical weapons.
It does.
And my character, Millicent Von Kessel, who fights Basilar Basilard, she actually took one in Mushroom Blue. She used one inside in that main fight at the end to make herself give pluses on saves and also make her immune to non-magical weapons.
Yeah, that's a really nasty one.
It's a great one.
It's a little bit under the radar since it's a potion.
I like potions of superheroism and heroism too.
Bucky would be a good name for it. And consumables. You know what, Sublime? You're right that players don't use them, but you know what they should. I know that in whenever I run, this was kind of inspired. I don't know if any of you have read the module City of Skulls before. It's a
Oh,
Greyhawk
it's
module
nasty.
taking place in IUs. But what I do is with that is you'll notice that part of the whole premise of the module is you're given a lot of one-shot magic items that are consumables, like scrolls, like potions. And that kind of informed a little bit of how I give out magic items a little bit, because I thought it was kind of cool. It's a way to control magic item use in your own campaign if you're if you're not going if you're having problems with there being a preponderance of magic in your campaign, the consumables is a great way to handle that.
Let's talk about this too. Last week, I had the specialty priestess of the Master of the Hunt, which is the neutral evil twin tinged druids in my campaign, trying to get the item off the group. And they know the archer's the nemesis to them, because the archer will just tear up all the druids because of the low armor bad armor classes. So the halfling, the baddie halfling targets Alan's character. He has a scroll of protection from magic. I'm screwed. Call lightning's nothing, right? And you all saw what happened last week, and I gave it to the character, right? And he used it and changed the whole fight. One item, a consumable. So if you have good players, know that there are consumables. There's Skagath, my Swedish friend. Thank you. Good to see you, man.
You got two. Don't forget Anna.
Well, yes, Anna and Skagath have been, connected. Yeah, Swedish male friend. How's that sound?
Okay, good enough. Good enough.
Skagath lives in Sweden still.
We've got Sweden in the house big time here.
Yeah, and Skagath is a great guy. Skagath was on the last DM's roundtable we had, so
I wouldn't forget you, Anna, like that. One other thing about today's magic user tip from Carlos. Since we're talking about consumables and spells, something that people don't remember very often, anti-magic shell makes you immune to breath weapons. So keep that in mind next time you're going up against a dragon, is anti-magic shell actually prevents breath weapons from attacking.
See?
There's your tip for today.
Wow. I did not know that.
And, yeah, most people don't know that.
And you guys in my group, you don't remember that, so to tell you what.
Sorry.
Isn't anti-magic shell, what level is that? Is it 6th or 7th?
6th.
Oh, so some of the guys in the campaign can cast it.
Yep.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Anti-magic shell is
advice
really
too.
nice for that.
All right, Bill. I know you're going to be Game of Thronesing it. So good. Talk to you soon.
It was nice seeing you, Bill. Thank you for coming.
Well, Bill will be on Thursday night and Saturday night this week coming up. So he'll be playing in 2 games this week with me. All right. So we're not going to get to the others. We'll get to this one tonight. The defender of the halflings, the halfling guardian. And the reason I want to bring this up is because Will on Greyhawk Online has converted this 1E 2E class to a 5E for his game. I think, and it's on there. It's posted for everyone. So any of you guys who are on there, you got to scroll up. I think it's a couple hours ago, earlier this morning. Take a look at it, download it, and tell him what you think of it, please. He did. I think it's great. So, and I don't know much about 5E, but it looks good to me. So
I'll have to check that out. Anything that's Greyhawk is always on my radar. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, I downloaded it. I'll send it to you.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. So this class was created in 88, something like that, and it's on our list. It's halfling only. It's like a hybrid of a fighter and a paladin and a ranger, kind of all 3.
Cool.
And Mark was playing one last week. Spooter Paddywhack was his halfling guardian he played in the Druid group. And they have spells that can turn themselves into a human. They have spells that can turn themselves giant size, and they have warning shouts. They get those like urges that they know like evil's coming. It's a really cool class.
I should mention this about that, kind of dovetailing with that. In my last game that I ran online, which was Lost Dog, one of the characters is a halfling fighter in that, one of the pre-gen characters. And I remember everybody looking at me like I'd grown another head when I said that. To be honest with you, that's not only is that stock, but in my own personal campaign, much like Jay employs specialty priests for each god, I don't see any reason why, to me, that you can't have for example, a halfling paladin. And as a matter of fact, I did have a halfling paladin in one of my group who had a sword that was consecrated to Arvarine. He called it Arvarine's Razor, which was their version of a holy sword.
Perfect.
And I always thought that particular class really appeals to me on that level, because I think the halflings, they do have a proud martial heritage. We know that from even the basic books with the whole concept of the halfling sheriffs. So
Absolutely.
I think that's pretty cool.
It is in Dragon 129, I believe. That one right there.
Mhm.
And let's give credit. Peter Dosick wrote it. Do you want to give him credit for it? We modified things slightly on it. Carlos, I would take a look at it. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it sounds really cool.
We incorporated some changes that they get +3 to hit and damage at 9th level with a short sword main primary wielding. We give them wisdom bonus for their spells, where it doesn't say that in here because the spell list, the amount of casting is very limited, so we give them the wisdom bonus too. But that's about it as far as changes.
Skagith, even when you're using Oriental Adventures, no monk.
Skagith had the fun moment of the last DM roundtable, and we're all talking, and a question came up, and I think he said, "I really hate fucking monks." Just monotone, and it was hysterical. So it was funny. He's like, "No, monks out. He's not a monk guy." So
I like monks when it comes to when you're dealing with the Baclunish West, and you're talking about things like Zuokin and Zanye. Those kind of faiths make sense to me that they would have monks. So I actually do use them, but on the wholesale, they should be a very rare class.
Monks I use as the bane of archers because monks can dodge their arrows.
Missile weapons, yeah.
They get in, and I did that to Alan's archer as well. He went through that. She went through that anti-magic area, and it's 50% chance to destroy their weapons. But she had 2 magic items because they wasn't cared about them. It was a perfect character to go in. So I actually had a monk on last week. But sorry, Skagith. But so
one other thing that's interesting about monks and archers is that, remember, because of the monks' movement rate, you can close on an archer pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
So and once you get inside that range of they stop being really a feasible character as far as their missile weapons go. So that's pretty interesting in and of itself.
And we have an old saying: the archer is the guy who will have the most deaths overall, because archers, if you rate guys, classes, the archer is the top, because the archer could take out the mage, the archer could take out the nasty in our campaign. That's just the way it's always been. And I know it's a little imbalancing, but I love the archer class. We've tweaked it a little bit. They don't get all the pluses that they get pluses with the arrows, not the bows, the extra pluses. We made some minor changes to it. But yeah,
that's awesome. There's that whole thing in I'm betraying my military heritage here a little bit, but there's that old saying, the radio man has the shortest life expectancy in any given platoon, because everybody's shooting at the radio man.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's very similar. In my games, it tends to be shoot for the mage, since I don't use the archer class. But
right, and that's the way it goes. And like in the world, most people go after the mages. In our world, especially if they have history with them, they're gonna know, take the archer out first, then take the mage out. So,
right.
So Will, I loved what you did with this in 5th edition. I wanted to really give you a shout out that I really appreciate that you've watched what Mark was doing playing it, and you were talking in game. I really wanted to say thanks for actually taking an idea, saying I love halflings, and running with it and doing it and bringing it out to your game where you can use it. I think it'll help the community for Grailk even more if we do more stuff like that. So thank you, and that's why I wanted to get to this tonight.
There is Speaking of Will, there's an underground right now. This is a great time to be a fan of the Greyhawk setting because there are so many people out there doing quality work that are kind of that in lieu of official support by Wizards of the Coast. There's that whole underground. People like Will, people like that are doing things like on Tribality.com.
Right.
Greyhawk Mike doing what he does on his
Everyone.
From Kuroth's Quill, Alan Grohe, Greyhawk Gronyard. You've got so many people out there. Jay, you, all these
Malden.
people are
Malden.
doing
Dennis
Malden.
Tetro.
All these people doing so much cool stuff out
Anna.
there. Anna Meyer, yeah, absolutely. This is a really cool time to be a fan of the setting because there is so much good quality stuff out there for you to use in your games that it's almost hard to keep track of anymore.
It is, may you live in interesting times, the Chinese have always said, and that is, seriously. When and I know we've gone back and forth.
Yeah, but they use that as an epithet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This time last year, I was contemplating whether I was going to do this. Get out in the streaming world. I'm so glad I did, and I'm upset at myself for not doing it earlier. But half my players wanted to do it, half of them didn't. One of them did not want to do it. Any questions asked, but I've worked through all those issues,
right?
And we've gotten to this point. But I am so happy that we decided to make this decision to do this because it's opened up all these doors. I would have never met you, would have never met Anna, would have never met most of the people online here. I would have never met them. And I'd still be in the dark. We'd still be playing and enjoying ourselves, but I'm enjoying myself even 10 times more now. I think Tom's enjoying himself, and Bill, and my whole crew, and Walt, and they just it's really...
one of the things for me that I notice when you're running your games is, again, if this is a fellow DM, you're always deconstructing someone else's games, and one of the things I always do is I always look at Marco, who's on the other screen.
Yeah.
Okay. He's always sitting there off on the other screen. Do you know he is never not engaged? He's always sitting there staring right at the screen, super engaged. That speaks to how compelling your game is, that you've got a guy over there that's remote. He's not even sitting there, and yet he's that engaged and in play. That speaks to your skill level and the kind of fun that you're having around your table.
And
that, to me, is one of the things that I first noticed about your game. And I was like, okay, there's something cool happening here.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Carlos. And it's
I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's apparent. You just watch the footage. The proof is in the pudding. If you ever watch any of Jay's games online, you'll see that. And I'm sure all of you have noticed that at one time or another.
We pride ourselves on, I wanted to bring, and I've said
all
this.
Right, Skagith, you just the next character I'm making from the Frost, Ice, Snow Barbarians. I'm calling him Skagith.
That's so awesome.
All right.
That is awesome.
And I'm publishing it in a Castle Entertainment module, so you better be ready.
Oh, plus you may be publishing some other faces too, right?
I will be publishing some other faces.
We're going to talk about that shortly. So, anyone have any other questions about anything we've discussed to this point? I know we didn't get to the shield thing. We didn't get to the barbarian. That's okay. There's always going to be another episode.
Sure, absolutely.
There's always going to be another time, and I know
the barbarian is really a controversial class, like the cavalier. So
I think it deserves more chat than 2 minutes. So
there's a lot to cover there.
Yeah, a lot to cover on that. Shield thing, there's a lot to cover on that too. That's like a dwarven defender. If a lot of people know that. But going back to Mark DMs his own group now on every other Monday nights, and he's got his own style. He's made changes that are different than what I would do, and that's good. You know?
Speaking of keeping us hungry for more, this is a good time, Jay, for you to tell us more about what you've got going on in the imminent future.
All right, do you want to do you and me in a minute, or what I'm doing this week?
Yeah, we'll do it you and me imminent, and then we'll talk about our individual things real fast.
Okay, let's discuss Gen Con first.
Okay, sure.
Carlos and I were chatting way back in GaryCon. I couldn't make it to GaryCon. I was really pissed I couldn't go. And I said, Carlos, you and I are we're like two peas in a pod. We're we're last of our kind almost. Let's run a joint game at Gen Con together. I'll run 4 hours, you run 4 hours, and we'll do an adventure. And it came to kind of fruition last night. It was submitted to Gen Con. Here is the tag for it. Carlos is so professional in this. I wrote it up, and he completely changed it so it sounds like it's 1,000 times better than the crap I had down. It's called Horror in the Holes. So everyone knows where that is.
Yep.
All right. I will be running the first 4 hours. Carlos will be running the second 4 hours. It'll be an hour break. We're limiting it to 6, and this is a no friend deal. You want to get into it? You got to sign up when the sign up starts. Okay, this one.
Yep.
It's going to be Thursday, the 1st of August, starting at 10 a.m. And I am super excited about it. And,
I'm so pumped about it, Jay. I'm really excited to see how our differing styles of running a game will dovetail with the players. That ought to be really cool.
That is going to be a fantastic experiment. It really is. I'm going to have some terrain. I'm going to have nothing major, some swamps, some stuff like that. And you're going to have, and figures, you're going to have, your style that you do it in, and we're gonna run through it. But what's
Skagith, just so you know, the more you tell me about this, the more I can put in this character that I'm going to create. So by all means, keep talking.
Absolutely. And Skagith has his own Twitch channel, so I think you guys should.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh no, Skagith. Skagith's a broadcaster too. He does a lot of different content. He's on I have 21 people I have on my list. All 21, some of them are not streaming yet, but all 21 of them I recommend. So I would go and just take a look and contact Skagith and make an agreement, or he does a lot of crazy stuff too. So
all right, so we're doing Gen Con together.
Yeah.
And like Jay said, it's going to be on Thursday, starting at 10 o'clock. He's going to open it up, and I'm going to be the closer for that.
Yeah, that's the first day.
That'll be a lot of fun, hopefully.
What's going to dovetail from that? What I asked.
Well, yeah, what happens after that, Jay and I are going to be, what we run is going to be compiled into a module for publication by Castle Entertainment.
So 40 years it took. 40 years.
We're really excited. We're really excited about that. And
yes,
people who play in that game, they'll get a chance to see themselves reflected in the module, and the things that they do will inform how we end up publishing it. But Jay is one of the best DMs out there. He's a really good guy, and I couldn't be happier to have him in the Castle Entertainment fold. So
thank you, Carlos.
I'm so excited. His stuff out there soon with us, I would imagine.
Yeah, and you have it down to a science, and there's no reinventing the wheel doesn't make sense. You have it. You got the artists. You got the publishing, and I just want good cheating. Thanks, Naz. Yeah, I have 20-sided dies all over the place. Right. Earth Journal was the first time I ever was published, ever. In 40 years, never had I submitted an article anywhere, and I got 2 articles in the Earth Journal, and this would be the first module I've ever had. It's joint with you, but it's the first one I've ever had in 40 years. I'm so excited about it.
Well, depending on how things, they go from there, who knows how, that module may do so well that I have to offer you an overture to do something else.
I am excited about the opportunities that are opening for both of us. Absolutely. And like I said, you have now gone to the world of Twitch, and you had a successful weekend.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
For myself, the next project that's coming out is, obviously, I do my Patreon stuff, which is patreon.com/Castle Entertainment. Next month, which is May, is Dragon Month. I've got the magic item of the month, spell of the month, the monster of the month. Plus, I've got a mini module that I come out with every month for everybody that, depending on your tier. We're also opening up a new tier, which is going to be an online campaign. Some of you may have already seen that on the page, so we're really excited about that. In particular, Lord Grendelwolf has got a special surprise for him next month, so you can keep an eye out on that on the Patreon. I'm also working currently on the next module that we're going to be releasing through Castle Entertainment. which part of it has to do with, for those of you who are steeped in Greyhawk lore, you may be familiar with a piece of history called Osan's Ride, which took place in the former Great Kingdom. Well, what I am doing has to deal a little bit with that.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about it. The campaign that we're going to be running online is to fulfill a particular niche that I think has been missing in RPG. I've noticed that people there's certain kinds of games that people don't play a lot of, and this is going to be one of them. So I'm excited about that too. And that campaign will also translate, much like what Jay and I are doing at the convention, will translate into a published module and series of modules. So,
and that's what's exciting too. Having it in people want.
Thanks, Gaggith. I'm excited to see your stuff too, man. I'm hyped about that.
Yeah, Skygeth goes all over. He does a lot of different systems. He experiments. He does a lot of different cool things. Where's Sprocket tonight, Skygeth? Sprocket said he was going to be on. I put these books up for him over on the left. I put all these from here on. Wait a minute, I get to them. All the Rock and Rituals books, because he was complaining he couldn't see him on Thursday night.
Thanks, Anna.
So yeah, I put them all up for him to see. So because
though we need that mad scientist in RPGs. I mean, without I talk to my friends about this all the time. There's two schools of when you're dealing with D&D. There's invention, where you're creating new stuff, and there's innovation, where you're taking old stuff and you're making it, putting new spins on it. Without both of those things, we don't have a future.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is static. So it's people like you that are advancing what we do and are, making it, cool for future generations. So I'm very excited about that kind of work for sure. And that's what Jay does too with what he does in his campaign. There's so much innovation going on there. It's awesome.
If we were standing still in the campaign, it would not be as fun as it is. We like to make changes. For example, the latest change, like Alan has brought up this Greyhawk Mage, which is kind of like they get trained and they do specific things. They can only use named spells, and they can actually start fighting a little bit at higher levels with like base armor and weapons and stuff. I'm going to give it a shot. So we're playtesting it. And that's the thing. We'll always try something. It doesn't mean it's going to make the cut down the road, but we'll always give it a shot and try it. And and that's what I like about what we do with my group. And as a DM, you have to. Scott, he's hysterical, isn't he? He just keeps on going, man.
I'm reading it. That's why I'm chuckling.
He'll go ahead. I mean, Skygeth's the best, man. Skygeth's always been a huge supporter of this channel and has done a lot, and thank you, a lot of free subs to people on here. I always appreciate it. Skygeth, thank you so very much. He's great.
Everybody's got to have their patrons. I mean, for example, Jay, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing Twitch. So,
well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
So you can think of it in terms of a lineage. Skygeth, without him, you wouldn't be who you are. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am. So
it makes it feel good that we've all partnered, and that was my idea. And so for my announcements here, let's just quickly go over what we're going to do this week. So tomorrow night, Mark's group continues in his Shieldlanders, his low-level characters, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. All right, so Mark will be up with his Horde, H-O-A-R-D, of the Dragon Queen in the Shieldlands. So Mark's group will be up tomorrow night, 6 to 9. Thursday night, we start a brand new adventure. Michael Baton's Revenge. I know Rox and Naz are waiting for this. Michael's group, the Furies, which he kind of was like the leader. That's Mark's character. He's a specialty priest of Zilchis. Was set up by Alida Norbalos and failed, and most of the party was killed off permanently. The group we were running came, and the Harby Irregulars came and saved Mark's player characters, but all the other characters in the group were killed off. He's seeking revenge now. It's called Michael Baton's Revenge. He's going to hire the group, the Hiltless Swords, to do something for him. Oh, it could be very underhanded, like Harby is, guys. And it'll be 2 weeks on that one. So that'll start Thursday night. And it'll be sea-based a little bit. I will have water out there. My resin ships, it'll be a little bit sea-based. And then Saturday night is Brian. Brian will be DMing a Fantasy Grounds game. On here, I will be hosting it. but Brian will be DMing, and it'll be myself. It'll be Anna. We already have our characters made: the Naz, Tim, Bill, and maybe one other person who's an old WoW buddy of all of ours that we played World of Warcraft back in 2004. 5e, and it'll be it's called Iris of the Moon. And Brian will be DMing that. It's on our Saturday night special. We'll run a Saturday night game every 4 to 8 weeks, whenever we feel like it, whenever we can get people together. That's so it's not a regular occurrence on a Saturday, but this Saturday, 8:30 p.m. to probably 11:30 p.m. we'll be doing that. So that'll be my first time I've ever played in a 5e game, guys. First,
Exciting.
It is. I'm playing especially a priest of Palor, a cleric of light. They're only
Okay.
third level characters. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we'll figure it out as we go. He's going to make me roleplay without using the word level. Okay, well, I will do my best on that, Brian, but I'm looking forward to having you DM for us. I've never played 5e. I want to see what it's about, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Maybe you'll find some things that you can absorb out of that system that you can apply to your game too.
Absolutely. Plus, we're using Fantasy Grounds too, and Fantasy Grounds has now come out with second edition.
I know, that's awesome.
It is. It's a step into that.
They are one edition away from making me go to Fantasy Grounds. One edition away.
Celestian's on here. He's the coder for it. He actually coded it into Fantasy Grounds second edition. So
really?
I don't know if he's still on, Celestian, but yeah, Celestian GC is still on. And thank you so very much. Yes, Mystery Cycle, and we have the coder on here in the VIP list, Celestian_GC. Yes, they just did second edition, Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and Against the Cult of the Reptile God.
That is a killer app for them too, man, because I know for people like myself who, debate sometimes, hey, I'm thinking about going VTT. Should I do Roll20? Should I do Fantasy Grounds? Well, first of all, most of my friends that give me the information tell me Fantasy Grounds is the way to go, but this is this is such a coup for them.
It is. We will be doing it in 5e, of course, because that's Brian's game style. It's Greyhawk based. If you have Brian, link your Obsidian portal again, please. Brian has his own site up where he has custom DM rules already done on crafting, masterwork gear, items, travel rules. It's all up on his Obsidian portal site in Greyhawk. It's based in the area near Saltmarsh. There it is. So take a look at that, guys. Our characters are on there under characters. You'll see the 4 that are up. Mine is Avery Rothschild is my character. Anna has the Elven Wizard. Bill has the Paladin, and the Naz has the Ranger. So you can take a look at those and see the characters. There you go. There's Celestian. Yeah, I was shocked, man. I was like, that's so awesome. So I may even be taking a look into that to do some Saturday night specials with 2E down the road. All right, and
then we need 1E.
It's getting closer. You know me, I can live with 2E. I can live with it. I
know. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that.
Yeah, we're getting there, but it's I imagine he could do some custom stuff, but I don't want to put that on him.
No. I was more than anything. I just had to say it. Say it.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. What Sublime said. Keep up the great work, man.
Definitely. And that's the great thing, putting the community together, we'd have that too. So we have, someone who's actually intimate with Fantasy Grounds watching our show and subbing, and it's just
that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of makes me feel kind of special a little bit. So
it is.
But I want him to feel special too. I did a big shout out to Celestian on Thursday night during the game when he came on. I was like, that's a huge, huge deal to have that Fantasy Grounds in 2E. And then, guys, we're going to have some new blood next Sunday. And unfortunately, Carlos would have been new, but Carlos is unavailable. Frank from Nightheart Gaming is going to hop in. Frank's still on. And 2 DMs from Legends of Evantris, Mikey and Nikki. They are rocking it in old 5e Theater of the Mind style. I've been watching their shows. It's called Legends of Evantris, another one we link with. I think they have their own homebrew world. they are cranking out average viewerships in the 40s already, and that's fantastic for them. I mean, it's great, looks fantastic, and they have fun. They have a lot of fun, so they're going to be on. And I have some new questions from that we. There you go, Frank. I have some new questions from last time. My notes are here somewhere. We're going to do a roundtable again. We're going to, we're going to have a couple different people on this time, and just change it up a little bit. And ask some things. One of the questions, think about this, is this: living or dead, who would you be your? It can be someone in the community, not who would you play a Dungeons and Dragons game with? So think about that question, Frank, Anna. Who would you play if you had anyone in the world you could play with? Who would you play the Dungeons and Dragons game with? That's one of the questions I didn't ask last time. I'm going to ask that. Who would you do, Carlos? Since you're not going to be here.
Living or dead?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking about who would be really interesting. I mean, the obvious
Brian
answer,
too. Brian's on too.
The obvious answer is Gygax, but I was actually thinking about historical figures, people that would be fun to play with.
I would do two people. One would be Carl Sagan, because I want him to say billions and billions like he used to say that. Okay, Carl Sagan. I loved Carl Sagan when I was growing up. He'd be one. Because I think he'd get into it, and the other one would be like Abraham Lincoln or someone like that. He's like, what the hell's? Because he's
actually that was one of my picks too. I was thinking he would be big, but also I would think having him and Hitler in the same group would be pretty cool.
Oh my god! oh my god!
I'm serious. Having those two in the same group, would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It would be.
One of the Jesus playing the paladin and Hitler playing the prefect.
That let's. Wow. So I got a bunch of those. Will be on, Anna will be on, Brian will be on, Mark will be on. We should have 7 to 8 total. So that's just one. I got a whole bunch of things, and we're just gonna ask each other. Yeah, great choices. Definitely, we're a little bit out there. So tune in. That'll be at 7:30. We'll be back at our normal time. I was just running late tonight, and I thank you all for hanging in there. And we'll go in a little late. So, does anyone have any final questions, Carlos? Is there anything else you'd like to say? I know we've gone 2 full hours, so this has been
only that. I want to show off one more time. This is whoever names our dragon mascot of Castle Entertainment. Just remember, he comes pre-equipped with a Drizzt Warden in his mouth.
Yeah, that is just, man, that is the best. Oh, so guys, please start thinking. Brian came up with the idea. We have our 5th emote in May. He likes the DM's crushing fist idea. So do I, but a lot of my guys didn't like it. I like that as our 5th emote that we'll get. We have 4 now. We get a 5th because we have enough subs, so we'll have a 5th emote. And so, but guys, here's the goal. Hopefully, if we continue at this rate of viewers, thank you so very much. Get to partner. And then we create a team of all the broadcasters, everyone. We create an RPG coalition, and then we just rock it all there together. That's the goal. Everyone that we have that's auto hosting and doing it. That's the goal. So, guys, hopefully that's the end game, and we can get there, and we all can just move up together. That I want this to be a big party with everyone. So,
absolutely. You always count me in on that.
Well, absolutely, Carlos, absolutely. Carlos, Anna, Frank, Will, all the new, all the old. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Maybe we get there, maybe we don't, because Twitch is weird and they don't like. It's a lot more difficult for RPGers to get that status than it is video gamers. I've been told that they make them wait months. So yeah. It's Legends of Avantris. It's on my follows. I think it's Avantris. I think that's how you spell it, Will. But they're one of the ones I follow, one of the more recent ones. Okay, But take a look. Yes, and Anna, I'm going to see you twice. I'm going to see Will once. Carlos, I wish you could be here next week, but man, this was a great night tonight. Just you and I.
Yeah, I know, man. What a bummer. But this has been a lot of fun, Jay. Thanks for having me.
This was great. Just you and I, just shooting shit here, talking about our different styles. So please check out Carlos's Patreon. For me, I'm not going to do Patreon. The best place to support the Lord Gazama channel is right here. just with cheers that go to players, and with your Twitch Prime subs. That's all I ask. We're just going to keep on cranking it out, and follows. I want to get at 1,000 followers. We will have something. I'm going to give away something coming up, but we will have our 2 sponsors are beginning to give away stuff coming up. I will find out by Wednesday what our next giveaway will be from Stratagem, and then in June 13th. Miniature Building Authority will be giving away another $100 gift certificates. There you go. Look at that, Skagith. You are the man, dude.
Well done, Skagith.
Just by asking, thank you, Skagith. You are, can't ask any more from Skagith support. So if that's it, if anyone else doesn't have any other questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the screen that shows our Order of Ulick event coming up. And then we'll go to I'll put it up for a minute. Then we'll go to our final screen on the Miniature Building Authority, one of our 2 sponsors. And it's been a blast, Carlos. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot so much for having me.
Oh, anytime. Please, guys, just remember this. Doesn't matter the style. Doesn't matter. Play Greyhawk. We are Greyhawkers. Keep the Greyhawk world going. And thank you for your support tonight, all. This was a blast. I think this is going to break another record on viewership.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to break our 76. So,
my closing comment, Lord Grendelwolf, remember how I said anti-magic shell makes you immune to breath weapon? It also makes you immune to gaze attacks and vocal attacks.
Don't give him any more ideas. I am humbled by all of your support. Thanks, guys. We'll keep it up. We're just regular guys enjoying what we do. We have our real jobs, our families and lives, but beyond this, man, this is our passion, and hopefully that shows. Keep it Greyhawk. I'll see you guys all soon. Have a good one. See you tomorrow night for Mark, 6 p.m. Have a good one, guys. Hopefully I pressed the right button. I did.
Okay.
That was awesome, Carlos.
Yeah, man, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, they can hear us, but that's fine. I don't care. So it's good.
What's that, buddy?
They can hear us still. That's good. Doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Good. That was excellent, man. You provided good perspective in the world outside of my little world of tabletop, which is good.
Well, man, your little world outside of tabletop. I mean, you have such a unique thing going on that's been developed over years and years and years, man. It's unlike anything else that's out there. So, I mean, you're bringing a very specific thing to the table here. So it's really cool to be as an outsider looking at it and just kind of learning about it and seeing what kind of things are.
I promise to get you in a game. So.
Yeah. At some point, I'd love that.
I'll get you in a game. Maybe we'll do a Saturday night deal, and I'll do a tabletop Saturday night special, one-off, and I'll get you in a game. We'll do something. I promise, man.
I'm not allowed to have anti-magic shell, though, right?
I'll make sure you're not that high enough level to use it. Here's a scroll. Yeah.
That spell is so underrated.
Oh, there's a lot of them like that too. I mean, when you think about it, even Minor Globe itself is pretty nasty.
Oh, Minor Globe is nasty. It is. Cool, man. Well, like I said, I'm pleased and gratified to be a part of the show.
Well, I will. I'll keep in touch with you. I think we're good with all the Gen Con stuff right now, and we'll just go. We'll go from there.
Special guest appearance by my white dragon too.
That was awesome. That was fantastic. All right. Well, get this off, and then I'll.
All right, buddy. Well, I guess I'm gonna jet then. You have a good one. Okay. Happy Easter. Take it easy.
Great seeing you. Talk soon.
Bye bye.